So I just got done having lunch with a friend of mine, and we were talking about startups and the culture. And one of the things that came up was the trap of the visionary and closing the gap from having an idea or a concept and actually creating it and bringing it to form. And there's two things that typically happen with these visionaries is that they're stuck in the planning mode of thinking. And there's some other layers to this, but the space in which they're actually trying to create from is still within the box of limitations that they create for themselves. And so they're searching for this thing that's going to disrupt the market. They're searching for this thing that's going to innovate and drastically change the way things are done, whatever the service is. But because they're coming from this box of limitations, it's really not what they're here to create. It's really not what they're here to do, but they just can't find that sweet spot of this is the fucking thing I'm here to do. And coming from this box of limitations, it's constantly recycling the same type of thoughts. It creates these gaps, it creates these spaces of how am I actually going to bring this to market? How am I actually going to pull this off? And that's what creates this trap of overthinking. That's what creates this trap of, is this going to work? How am I going to make this work? And we get stuck in that space. And when we're stuck in this creative purgatory in terms of having these brilliant ideas but not be complete, then we're kind of stuck. And when you think about it, what you're actually here to do is to massively change how the world functions, how to massively change the way people operate or how they do things. And when that clear channel isn't available to bring it all the way through, then it just stays stuck as an idea. It just stays stuck as a concept. And we've been conditioned to operate a certain way. We've been engineered to operate a certain way in which we come from the space of the mind. And it's not that the mind isn't useful, because it certainly is. It's a brilliant organ that does a lot of wonderful things for us. But at the same time, there's so much more that we have access to that we're not fully aware of because we're stuck within the programming of the mind itself. So when we have this bigger concept or idea we want to bring to the market and it just doesn't feel right, it's just not quite hitting the way that we want it to, is because there's actually a deeper aspect of what there is actually here to create that's not fully coming through yet. And so once that gets unleashed and these box of limitations start crumbling down, that's where the real genius, that's where the real innovation starts to come through. But the way we think about things is like, this is an intellectual problem, right? This is something to figure out with my mind. And because we're stuck in that loop, it really doesn't fundamentally change the way that we think, the way we perceive, and the limitations that we place on ourselves coming from that space. So closing a gap from having a brilliant idea and actually creating it all comes back down to being able to tap into your internal current, if you will, and to bust down these walls that are put up in terms of our identities of who we think we are, in terms of, is this going to work? In terms of any of these quote unquote limiting beliefs that we have around what we're actually here to do. And this is not mindset stuff, right? This is not mindset stuff, because let's be honest, most mindset stuff is superficial. It doesn't even move the needle at all. But when there's this deeper state of self-resonance within yourself and whatever you're trying to create, then this thing will naturally start to evolve, will naturally start to come together. But far too often these visionaries stop because they don't have all the pieces of the puzzle together yet. And because there is this need to know the outcome of what's going to happen, they stop. And so they stay stuck in this place of endless planning, endless thinking, without it actually coming through. So if you are someone who has a new business, a new vector that you want to create in your business, but you're not exactly sure where to take it, let's chat. Let's see where it goes.